More than 10,000 people die every year in alcohol-related crashes in the United States. Ignition interlocks can be an effective tool in reducing offender recidivism. While most jurisdictions have ignition interlock laws, there is no model program or national strategy that addresses every component of an ignition interlock program. AMVA's Ignition Interlock Program Best Practices Guide offers guidance to both jurisdictions with existing ignition interlock programs and to jurisdictions that are creating new programs.
DMVs with up-and-running programs can compare their business and operational practices against these best practice recommendations to improve their existing programs. While DMVs just starting a new Ignition Interlock program can use the best practices document as a blueprint to help them build a strong program from the ground up.
This best practices document has chapters covering ignition interlock program types, manufacturer and participant oversight, standardized reporting processes, reciprocity issues, outreach and education, and ignition interlock program evaluation. In addition, the document has several appendices to assist DMVs with administering a strong ignition interlock program. Examples include the standardized vocabulary adopted by the Association of Ignition Interlock Program Administrators, the NHTSA model specifications for ignition interlocks, relevant research and references, to name just a few.
The Best Practices Guide also includes model legislation for jurisdictions to use as a template for creating new programs or to amend current enabling legislation.
The model legislation was developed by the Ignition Interlock Working Group. Then it was vetted by the AMVA Legal Services Discipline representatives.
Accompanying the Best Practices Guide is a training video for law enforcement.
This video is for state, county, and local law enforcement officers who engage in traffic law enforcement. The video covers what officers should do when they encounter a driver who is operating a vehicle equipped with an ignition interlock device, what driver license ignition interlock restriction codes mean, ignition interlock device circumvention tactics, and other important information useful to any law enforcement officer who may encounter a driver at roadside who is required to have an ignition interlock device. As more and more jurisdiction legislative bodies are passing ignition interlock legislation, it's important for AMVA to provide our jurisdiction members with best practice recommendations for running an ignition interlock program.
It's important for jurisdictions to have an effective interlock program to ensure safety on the roads, to reduce the amounts of fatalities, and also to ensure standardization among consequences and sanctions for drive under the influence.
There's a lot of research evidence to show the importance of ignition interlock and the impact it has on reducing recidivism and fatalities related to impaired driving offenses while the device is installed. These are devices that I think are critical for each AMVA jurisdiction, and any jurisdiction really, to utilize in combating the issue of impaired driving.